Oof, we're live. All right. What's going on? Hello. We're going to wait for, we'll call it 2-3 minutes. We'll see if anyone else is joining us. And then Coach Courey here. I'm going to be talking with my fiance, Greg, about his nutrition.
Hi, I'm Greg. I got ripped into this.
He volunteered.
Voluntold. Okay. Some technical adjustments we're making.
Oh, yeah. Learning how to do a YouTube live. We're very technical over here.
Should I do the camera? Like,
Right? The camera. You get to look at me all the time.
can't view through the camera.
Hmm.
Nutrition. Good times.
Always. Before we really kick it off here, I wanted to kind of take the opportunity to introduce my line of services as Coaching by Courey. So again, my name is Coach Courey. I'm a nutrition coach. I have a Precision Nutrition Level 1 certification to practice that coaching. And then I'm also CrossFit L1, which honestly technically comes along with a little bit of nutrition too. Lots of fitness there, of course. And then I have a yoga teacher training as well. So I combine all of my trainings and I provide a nutrition coaching service. So my two main services, an obvious one is just one-on-one. So kind of depending on where you're at in your nutrition journey, if you need a coach, you need that accountability or maybe more education when it comes to nutrition and kind of the latest and greatest in nutrition, those one-on-one services could be for you. The other thing that I'm really excited about and something that I'm offering right now, and I mean, not just right now, but something that I'm offering, I guess, is a 12-week nutrition foundation course. And essentially what this does is it sets you up with all of the basics around what is ideal nutrition and optimizing your nutrition and really getting you started on that road. And then it really has a heavy focus on behavior change and mindset as well. And again, that's going to be kind of one of my specialties, is specifically helping with that lifestyle change or the behavior change that comes along with identifying your nutrition strategies. So if any of that sounds, hey, like that's me and I really need that education or I need the mindset shift, something like that, that 12 weeks course could be for you. That's specifically for individuals who really don't have experience counting macros or tracking, weighing and measuring food, or things that we might consider a little bit more advanced. So wanting to kind of throw that out there as I don't necessarily have any sponsors of my YouTube lives or my videos, but you know what? I'm doing it all on my own, right? got an investor over here, but otherwise, that's a little bit about the services that I offer. And so if you are seeing this and you're interested in those services, let me know. You can reach out through, honestly, really through whatever channel you want, and I'll come and find you. But my email is just my first name, Courey, @Coaching by Courey, and that's all over my YouTube, my Instagram pages, my Facebook, and my LinkedIn. And then, of course, you can get a hold of me through any of those social medias as well. So it's 5:03 right now. We are not going to hang around and wait for anybody. We're going to go ahead and kick this thing off. So today I am talking with my fiance, Greg, and we're just going to get a little bit of his story and kind of his nutrition background, and then we're going to bring it forward here to what we're doing right now. So for those of you who have been kind of tuning into my channel or my videos, you'll know that I'm eating carnivore right now, or ketovore. It's more like that ketovore, where every now and then there's going to be some really low carbohydrate type vegetables, things like that in the diet. But really the majority, I'm thinking 95% of our diet is consistent of just animal products. So beef, butter, bacon, eggs, and then we also eat dairy products. So we'll go for some aged cheeses. Butter, I already said butter, that's high up there on the list. We do drink milk occasionally, which yes, it has some carbohydrates, but milk is a whole food. We drink whole raw milk. So again, it's a whole food. And so kind of checks the box. That's one of our kind of criteria or filters for our nutrition in our diet. And so really, I'm not going to talk too much here. I'm going to let Greg take it away, and I'm kind of interviewing him, more like prompting him with some ideas and things that I want him to talk about. But the real reason is because as a nutrition coach, and as I'm, promoting myself and my coaching and my philosophy or methodology, I think it's really easy to kind of get tied up in me and here's what I think and here's what I'm learning and here's what I'm doing, That's really self-centered. And so what I wanted to do was give you the perspective of someone who I'm kind of doing this stuff with, just someone who's not me, and kind of get a fresh face up here in front of you. And I feel inspired by him every day. And I wanted to share that excitement and inspiration with all of the, couple tens of people who are going to join. But really, this video will live on. And so I'm excited to just bring this information to you. So I'm going to set the stage a little bit for you for where we're at right now. And then we're kind of going to go back for Greg and we'll catch ourselves up. So we've been going pretty much all in on this carnivore diet since the end of last year. I started around the end of October, and then Greg started maybe a month or so later, sometime kind of like right before Thanksgiving. We knew we were going to eat how we were going to eat at Thanksgiving, and then the same deal for Christmas and New Year. We knew that we were going to kind of break the diet, but we had a plan and we stuck to it. And honestly, I think that we did a really good job. So that's just a very general look at where we're at right now. Ooh, getting a message from our computer. All right.
It's okay.
Still rolling. So what I want Greg to start out with, and what he's going to talk about first with you, is just kind of his history with nutrition and cooking. And I would identify for him that he's a foodie. And when I met him, he loved to cook. And I feel like one of your things was like getting to a woman's heart through her stomach or something like that. And I feel
that's my love language.
Yeah, his love language is like cooking. So anyway, I'm going to let him take over and kind of let you know his history with food, cooking, and nutrition.
I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to talk too much, but I've been cooking forever, maybe. My mom was a big cook in the kitchen. Same thing with my dad. Growing up, we would have dinner 5 o'clock every day. And if you weren't there, you're in trouble. So my dad would come home from work. We would all talk about our day, our problems, our achievements, whatever they may be, from 5 to 6. If somebody called, what are you doing calling right now? It's dinner time. Click.
There's a cutoff. Don't call it dinner time.
So it was always like a community thing for us. Like we would have dinner, we would have different meals every night. We didn't really focus on nutrition, I guess, for a long time. We really focused on the food, the flavor, the conversation, and just enjoying each other's company. And I tried to continue that tradition when I cook with others, as I like to invite friends over and cook for them and kind of just enjoy their company and enjoy the time spending together. And I didn't really think about food in such a way that like I needed to restrict anything. I didn't really ever think about like getting abs like Instagram models or anything like that. But yeah, I guess the turning point for me was in my 20s. I put on a lot of weight. I was playing a lot of video games and just generally unhappy with how I felt and who I was at that time. And I'll stop there. I don't know if you can go too deep into that.
Oh, that's good. I love that. I love like the family dynamic and the way that you viewed food. And I would share that we were the same way. Like we pretty much had family dinner, although ours looked a little bit different. We were like, my sister and I, we were swimming or running cross country, or there was always kind of like a after school sport going on. So when we finally sat down together, if the 4 of us got together, which was probably more often than not, we were doing that big family dinner thing too, where we ate our dinners together, even if it was like at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night when we got back from swim practice, which would have been the latest, but there was always a season, the fall season, where we were running cross country. I'm from Pennsylvania, so our sports seasons are a little bit different than maybe the West Coast, but we would, when we ran cross country, we were definitely eating like the earliest, which would have been like 6 or 7. My dad was a coach, so we kind of had to wait around until everybody got taken home or whatever. So, but I think that's really, really cool. And I think it's really valuable to understand. It's actually very healthy. Not regardless of what you're eating. I absolutely couldn't make that statement, but it's very healthy to kind of like have the background of that family that family dinner and spending that value, like really quality, high value time together. And I feel like that's kind of a principle that you carried over to when we met. And we can kind of move ahead a little bit here, but when we met at the end of 2018. At the end of 2018-ish, like October, like September, October 2018, something like that. And when I met him, I had tried carnivore for the better half of that year. I was eating only animal products. And honestly, in hindsight, probably doing it a little bit more sloppy than we are now, and not maybe being as diligent about like getting the fats, but I was eating a ton of cheese. If we're being honest, I was eating like a lot of cheese. And I think that's how I kind of sustained the carnivore, and that's how I got enough fat in my diet, even though it maybe wasn't as high a quality. Again, I tried to kind of hook you into going carnivore. And so tell me kind of like, what were your thoughts around that? And then tell us how it played out.
Yeah, that was interesting. I think like I tried to go along with it at first.
You were a sport.
Yeah, it was a sport. I was like, I guess we're just gonna have hamburger meat and eggs for dinner tonight again.
Again, it was boring. I'll interject. Like, it was boring. It was the same stuff. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I couldn't afford steaks, right? So my exposure to carnivore was like, you know, you're eating steaks all the time, or like you do the best you can, and ground beef, some bacon, but not a lot, like sausages.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's maybe a little bit more boring than how we're doing it now, and that's okay. We learned.
I was like craving carbs, and like I wanted like sweet potato and like kind of the things I was used to as like healthy foods. If anybody's familiar with the standard American diet, carbs are not bad for you, so you're told your entire life.
And so, even encouraged, right? And
yeah,
you know, processed foods, you know, anyway, that whole industry. And so I think you were aware of that, and you were feeling that.
I would say like at the time I was like, well, let me help her out and help her, you know, teach her what I know about nutrition, and I'll like cook for her, and we'll like be healthy together. And what I was thinking at the time.
Well, you were going based off of your previous knowledge, and you were going off of kind of that emotional drive. And I think that it's something that can be challenging to recognize or to acknowledge, is that like a lot of our eating and a lot of our carbohydrate cravings and what the carbohydrates that we choose, it's really emotionally driven. And honestly, it's a gut microbiome thing, and that's like a whole other video or interview or something, and we're not going to go into that. But we do know that a lot of that is emotionally driven, and I think you were really feeling that. Like, I was sucking the emotion and all the fun out of what eating could be, and I was like, no, eating is fuel. You know, my athletic background, like, it's a fuel, and you just need to do it, and you just need to eat so that you can go do the things that you want to do. And I was living that, and I was experiencing that on carnivore, you know, round one, and I wanted you to see that, I think, too, and the simplicity of it, rather than it being so restrictive, which I think is the first thing that people see. I found that really freeing.
There was just so much stuff that I wanted to cook for you and share with you, and family recipes.
These flavors.
The flavors and just a smorgasbord of things to share.
Yeah.
And then, carnivore, I think we did it for like 3 days or something. I lasted for like 3 days. My poop was very irregular.
Can't talk about nutrition without talking about GI stuff, right?
It's just, I was craving carbohydrates. My workouts were not good. I fell out of the regimen very quickly. I didn't last very long.
No, maybe not even a week. And I liked you, so I was like, okay, I'll eat what he's eating. Luckily, his personality was there, and I couldn't stay away. So I can share that I'm doing carnivore diet right now, specifically because at the end of October, when I started, I tuned into a CrossFit webinar, a CrossFit hosted webinar featuring Anthony Chafee. And so for those of you in the carnivore world or the keto world, you already know plants will kill you, Anthony Chafee. And I asked him, I have the opportunity, look him up. I can tag him in the comments of this video or something like that. I'll link one of his videos, kind of his classic "plants are trying to kill you" speech. But essentially, his thing is honing in on the anti-nutrients in plants, and he doesn't, he's fully carnivore, so he's not eating plants. So I'm sitting in the living room. I'm sitting like right here and I'm listening to him talk. And I have suffered with what I believe is relapsing tick-borne fever and, in short, Lyme. That's just been chronic, that hasn't gone away. And so for years, and my sister and my dad are the same way. We all have kind of been able to relate. We all have been, diagnosed with Lyme and multiple times, unfortunately, and been treated for it. But it is a disease, or it's a illness that kind of sticks around. It can stick around for a number of different reasons. So anyway, I'm watching this Anthony Chafee thing, and I had the opportunity to ask him a question. I type in how I forget exactly the wording, but something about, what about Lyme and this carnivore diet? And he just goes, oh, it'll heal it. So from what I think is this Lyme and my relapsing, it'll heal it. And then he went on to talk about some other disease, because I think it was more relatable maybe than talking about Lyme. And I was like, it felt like this kind of like slap in the face. It was like, duh. And so that was the moment where I was like, I'm doing this again. I'm doing this to try to cure my symptoms of what I think are relapsing tick fever, which includes major depression, which I've suffered with for years, so talking like 13, 14 years. And my live next Tuesday is really just featuring me. And I'm going to share a lot more of that story with you, the depression, the eating disorders, and just like total fatigue and just feeling wiped out. Like I'm, fit, I run, I lift weights, I'm doing CrossFit, all this stuff. And there will be times where like, I can't like control my hands in the kitchen, and like my hands feel weak, and I'm having like some kind of neurological symptom or something like that. And I don't even actually necessarily think my symptoms were the worst, but the depression was really the main one. So I've been focused on trying to use my nutrition to help with my depression. Probably that journey has been 8 to 10 years of the 14 years of depression, when I kind of was like, okay, I tried the antidepressant, like the pills weren't working and stuff, or rather I didn't want to be on pills. I didn't even want them to work. I wanted to figure it out on my own. So what I want to talk with you about and pivot back to you, Greg, is what's been the reason that you're kind of more open now. We've been doing carnivore for almost a few months, a little bit off and on with the holidays and things like that. Like I said, we knew that was going to happen, but come January 1, we're right back on it, committed to it. Our fridge is full of beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. So tell us what's different this time, and what are you thinking about now versus last time that's kind of made your carnivore journey just so much different, so much more, you're just so much more able to commit. So what can you tell us kind of along those lines?
I think for me, it's been a mental change.
As it always is.
As it always is. I don't think about food anymore, really. Right now it's 5:30 local time. Normally on a carb diet, I need dinner soon. That was me gripping the table and anxiety.
Having those hanger sensations.
And yeah, I don't really have that anymore with this satiating high-fat diet. I mean, and it's relatively easy this time around. We're not eating hamburger meat and eggs. We're eating like ribeye steak for dinner tonight. That's not too bad.
Right. We have brisket. We make rib roasts. We do
pork shoulder.
Yeah,
all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, lots of steaks though, and they never get old.
No,
I don't think so. I haven't gotten sick of a steak yet.
No, pretty easy.
So you have some kind of genetic predispositions. Specifically, your dad does have type 2 diabetes. So do you feel that that's any kind of motivator? And let's be honest. So I'll also share that, every morning we watch, not every morning, a lot of mornings we watch some kind of like nutrition education video that kind of kicks off our day. And it really gets me motivated to do what I want to do for all of you. And, it probably gets you motivated in some way. So what can you speak to in that regard, just with what you're learning, and tell us some things that you've learned and how that kind of relates to this health condition that you're predisposed to, but really don't have to think about much.
Well, I kind of mentioned it earlier that in my 20s, I gained a lot of weight and realized that I was on this path towards obesity, diabetes, and early death. And that's obviously not
low quality of life. Low quality of life. He's a surfer. He got me into surfing. He's a climber. He's super fit and active. So
that week, month, year, whenever that was, I just turned it around. Started working out all the time. I started doing jiu-jitsu. I started surfing more often. Started rock climbing. Started doing yoga. Kind of anything and everything but changing the way I ate, because I didn't want to give up the food that I loved.
And what was your belief system at the time?
My belief system was, food is great and I love it.
I was going to say, I was kind of prompting you, like, was it calories in, calories out?
No,
that's good.
I never really bought into that. Calories in, calories out. I read a few nutrition books. I read the Zone diet, which was eating to stay in the zone. You had to eat like 6 or 8 meals a day.
It's a really good start, though.
X amount of protein, X amount of carbs, X amount of fat in every meal. Obviously, low fat was the thing.
Low fat.
What's the other one called? I forget. It's like
Atkins.
Atkins. I've heard of that.
Well, Atkins is high fat, though.
At the same time, my parents were kind of going through their phases of like trying to lose weight and trying different things. The shakes, the Atkins diet, all sorts of different things. Calories in, calories out, and I just watched them fail at all of it. And
what did that mean? Can you define what that failure was? What do you mean they failed at it? They didn't reach their weight loss goals. They didn't reach their health goals. They didn't feel good while doing it. Can you give details?
Just no like long-term results, I guess. Like
long-term.
You stick to the regimen and you might have results, and then you go back to normal and the weight comes back on. And I've seen that with friends and family over and over and over again, and it rips them apart. And
they work so hard for something.
My theory back then and kind of lasted until we went into this carnivore phase is like just and enjoy life and stay active. I was able to outwork the diet for a long time, probably up until COVID. I think COVID, the gyms closed, the
offices are closed. You're not walking around. We were living in Seattle, so he was walking miles, like whatever, down the hill in Queen Anne. If you're from Seattle, I
went from incredibly active one day to the next day of like just sedentary for months.
Literally like
months.
Hit your quarantine. That's it. Yeah, totally.
So the cover photo, we kind of were making fun of me. I was making fun of myself. We can say it.
It was a before. It was a simple before and after, and I never meant to poke fun. And I asked permission to use it.
I put on 20 pounds probably.
We're reconnecting our internet.
Uh-oh. And we're back.
We are back. Yes, I think that you probably put on around that 20 pounds, and it was very much like the belly, the torso.
It was
a little bit on the thighs.
Uber Eats, DoorDash.
It was not cooking our own meals at home. It was, we'll just do that one. We'll just do this one. And it like, you think it's just a one-off in that situation, but it's like your third one-off that week or something. And like,
or third that day sometimes.
It gets great.
It's terrible.
It became the easy thing. And we were y'all know we were locked up in our shoebox of an apartment in downtown Seattle. And you guys know what that was like wherever you were. We were locked up, and it was like, what can I do to feel happy, even if it's just for a moment? And like we leaned into food like a lot of people did.
I ate my things. Lots of
maybe
ice cream.
unknowingly, but tons of ice cream, lots of lasagna. He's Italian. Lasagna is definitely
pasta.
Not our weakness, but it's kind of like that. I don't want to say it's our weakness. Anyway. So this is going on. Your parents are, fad dieting is kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Here's what you should do next. And, they're just average people with average education. And it's like, that's what we should do.
And like looking to me for advice. And I'm like, I don't have any like educated opinions about that at all.
So now we're in round 2. And we're very committed. We're sticking with it. And again, I kind of had mentioned this in the description. He's been the best support system. And I recognize, I think now that I'm the one who was like, yeah, we're doing this and this is appropriate and this is how we should be eating and this is the science. And I really dug into that aspect of it and brought him with me. And he's been such a sport and so supportive of just kind of like that harebrained type idea. So share with us, what is so different this time around? Why are you able to stick with it? What's changed? And again, can you like kind of drop any knowledge on us, stuff that you've learned about nutrition or your own body?
Big Fat Rise was one of the books that was very, where Nina Teicholz is, yeah, you can drop that.
I'm going to drop that in the comments. Highly recommended.
She's basically going through 50, 60 years of nutrition history and where the food pyramid is originated from, the diets like the Mediterranean diet, Standard American diet, Atkins diet, all sorts of different periods through history and how we got to where we're at, basically. And I think the education kind of opened my eyes to, there are studies that go back to the 50s about ketogenic diets. And
tons of research on high fat, low carb diets, a lot of science that, was ignored or omitted or, the paper wasn't written about it. And so what Nina Teicholz does in that book is just really breaks down, like, here's where it went wrong. And here's what we can kind of learn going back and looking at that data and kind of reinterpreting that data. So that's really the power of that book. And I think, again, that was really eye-opening and like, oh my gosh, like, the knowledge that I have on nutrition is kind of built on bullshit.
Yeah. I think we were open-minded. We saw it as an opportunity to continue to educate and continue to learn more about what is ketogenic, what is carnivore, and then I think that
how does it work? Why does it make sense? I mean, we went all in.
Yeah,
we've been all in.
That led to me to try it. What's the worst that could happen? I'll have a bad poop again for the next week, 2 weeks, or something like that. I've been there before, so
yeah. Like, what do you have to lose? Eating steak, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for 30 days, and if you feel good at 30 days, hey, keep going.
It's pretty easy to wake up and eat bacon and eggs every morning. Having steak for dinner. We definitely have our go-tos, and we've been stepping outside of that box a lot.
Yeah.
Different multi-meat breakfasts are probably my new favorite.
Multi-meat dishes are good. We want to make sure that we have like at least 2 kinds of meat or animal product, I guess you could say, on the plate. And I think the only exception is just when it's a really big ribeye. But we're very comfortable with that kind of being the only thing. So
I guess results that I can speak for myself anecdotally. I'm not a coach. I'm not paying. Nobody's paying me for anything.
I'm not paying him, I promise.
So I can say whatever I want. I've lost weight. Mental clarity is top notch. What else?
How do you feel?
I don't think about food all the time.
Is that different from before? Do you feel like before it was like, I'm eating breakfast thinking about like what I might have for
yeah,
lunch?
Absolutely.
You're like already planning out your menu. What a distraction.
What are we having for dinner later?
Yeah.
At like 9:20 in the morning. Like, I just ate breakfast.
Yeah, I'm like doing breakfast dishes. Like, what are we eating for lunch? When do we get to have that meal?
Yeah.
Oh, not yet? Okay. Yeah.
It's just been eye-opening.
The overall health benefits. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm on a diet that is making me look the way I want to look and feel the way I want to feel.
Right.
And this is like shocking compared to what you've tried or maybe what you've done before, what you've seen other people, your family specifically do before.
It's kind of like you see the anecdotal evidence of other people having success with it, and you're like, nah, that can't happen. That not for me. It wouldn't happen for me. And then you try it, and you're like, okay, maybe this is legit.
You're probably down like 10 pounds.
I'm still a skeptic, I would say, but I'm falling into the pattern and the routine.
But a healthy skeptic. And I think that's good. And again, kind of coming back to the big fat surprise, like, unfortunately, that is the groundwork that early nutrition and, dietitians and things like that, they've kind of laid the groundwork for this skepticism. And I think there's a healthy skepticism, and the truth with nutrition is simply that it is trial and error. It's an experiment, and you're just in an experiment right now. And there's nothing to lose, but kind of more like everything to gain. And the way I always put it is, you're taking back control of your health and your wellness. And I think that's a really big point for me.
I think keeping an open mind and kind of not looking too much into, well, I would say like we tried to make like a more well-rounded perspective. Like, what do the vegans have going on that is so special? And you look for results, and yeah, people have lost weight, but their mental health declines almost in tandem with a vegan diet.
And you can see it. You can see, dark circles around the eyes, and you can kind of almost pull up pictures of people. And I'm not a fan of this, but you can find this on other, carnivore advocate social medias where they're kind of calling out vegetarians or vegans, and they can even post kind of like this timeline of the decline of this individual's health, and you can see it in their photos. Mm-hmm. And I remember being at that point, like I tried it before I did, that like not fully plant-based, but definitely vegetarian, lots of veggies. And even that I was restricting. And, eggs would have been the only protein that I was getting at that time. So yeah, I think.
Same here. I did vegetarian for a month. Felt terrible. I was dying actually at the end of that month. I was constantly hungry. My like cuts and wounds weren't healing. I was getting ear infections, just all sorts of health issues that I've never had before in my life. Started with a vegetarian month dieting, which is I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, and that's all you do, right? And that's not to say that diet doesn't work for some. Somehow it does, and we recognize that we weren't those people.
Yeah, just not for me.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to share or that you want to dive into, carnivore diet, nutrition, or anything that we haven't really mentioned here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I wanted you to kind of just share what you wanted to share and your passions and kind of what you have going on for yourself in your nutrition. I think that things that we're doing really well, it's just kind of staying on point. And if there ever is a falter, it's that really quick reset. So one of the kind of big practices that I focus on with my clients, and, therefore we practice this as well. We both try to practice what I preach, so to speak, is just kind of like that quick reset. So again, coming back to the holidays, we knew we were going to go home to my sisters. We were going to eat all of these amazing Japanese dishes, which can include rice noodles and, other carbohydrates and veggies and things. And, that's this celebration around our culture and around food. And, we let ourselves have that. And so I think that because we planned for that, we stayed in so much control. We had the opportunity to eat cookies all day long. And, that was kind of the main one, but, to have alcohol at every dinner and things like that. And just finding a way to continue to make healthy choices because we understand the consequence. And in this case, it's a really positive consequence of eating the way that we want to eat. So I would say if you could kind of get a message out to people who are like curious about keto, ketovore, or carnivore, what would you say to kind of start to help kind of tip the scales in their favor, which would be switching to one of those diets?
Why not? You've tried everything else probably in your life. Why not try this?
Yeah.
The anecdotal evidence is kind of overwhelming when you look into it online. You can find all sorts of people that have cured all sorts of metabolic diseases and type 2 diabetes and lost hundreds of pounds. And it sounds too good to be true based on what you need to eat and what you need to do to get there. So why not? Give it a try for a week, a month, and see how you feel.
I think that 30 days is a really nice sweet spot. Go beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for 30 days. And if you don't start to feel better after about week 3, there may be some slight adjustments for you. But most people are noticing pretty significant increases in energy and performance, overall health, which, I mean, we talked about pooping a little bit. We definitely have, I've heard of people experiencing, oh my goodness, like I don't have blood in my stool anymore after just 3 weeks, things like that. So, not only is there extremely powerful anecdotal evidence when it comes to keto, ketovore, and carnivore. Again, I've said this a lot. I've said this in some of my other videos. Nutritional ketosis, or that keto diet, it is not a fad diet. It's not a phase diet. It is a clinically proven diet that can be used to treat drug-resistant epilepsy, along with other neurological and mental health disorders. Another really big reason, as I had mentioned before, why I wanted to do this and really commit to it this time is to help with those symptoms for myself, and just these feelings of total loss of confidence, and just you'll hear me refer to it as this storm of shit talking that kind of happens in my mind when I'm having insulin resistance in my brain. And so it becomes very easy most of the time to choose to not eat sugary foods or carbohydrates. That being said, I'm a total carb addict, and I would say I'm more so than you. And he talks me out of, like, I wanted to roast marshmallows on the fire this weekend, and I was pretty hell-bent on it and thought that was really something that I needed. I did. And in hindsight, I'm very thankful that he was there to be like, no, we're not doing that. We're not eating this way. We've got cheese and we've got our burgers, and we had an amazing meal that filled me right up. And I didn't think about marshmallows the rest of the night. But there's still that part of me that, like, if I even have the slightest bit of sweetness anywhere in my diet, even if it's not actual sugar, right? The fake sugars and the fake artificial sweeteners will make me have cravings and will bring that stuff up for me again.
Ready to go eat some steak?
Yeah, but yeah, now we're ready to go eat some steak. So if you've been with us here, I know we've got a couple people in the room here. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions? Is there anything that you want us to expand on or talk about more? We'll stay here for another couple minutes or so, but then we'll kind of head out. And that's okay. I'm available through social media. You can find Greg too if you want to kind of question him outside of this context. You're always more than welcome to do that. Whenever you have questions about keto, ketovore, or carnivore, or your nutrition in general, I think a lot of people aren't ready to go full on, like cutting everything out except for beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, right? And so what's a logical first step for you, I think, would be a really good question to answer. And frankly, it's simply cutting out processed foods. It's the best thing that you can do for yourself and for your overall health and wellness. Is can we get the refined sugars and carbohydrates and all of those refined oils out of your diet? So that's the big one. That's the big one for me. And really what that leaves you with is the CrossFit diet. And you can look it up and you can do more research. It's eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little bit of starch, and no sugar. And I would go a step further to say, limit your carbohydrate intake, your vegetables, nuts, seeds, fruits, and starches to probably 50 to 100 grams of carbs a day at the most. And we don't need more than that. And your body doesn't want more than that. When it calls for more than that, and when you get those cravings, it's really likely due to undernourishment, not malnourishment by any means, but just not getting kind of the overall nutrition that you need in your diet on a daily basis. And then, we start kind of pulling from other areas of the body, and that can have some long-term effects that nobody wants to deal with, right? So what I can tell you again, and I think I said this at the beginning, there are 2 macronutrients that are essential. You need these. It's fat and protein, and carbs are there to kind of help get you quick energy. I honestly can't even tell you like what the main benefit is anymore, just because
they taste good.
They taste good, but a lot of carbohydrates are not even considered real food to me. So that's a starting point. Kind of bringing it back, a really good starting point for you is going to be kind of cut those processed foods out of the diet.
I don't want to get too much into the advice. I think leave that to your business.
You
guys can pay for that. No more free.
My main investor
No more
says no
free
more,
stuff on
no
YouTube.
more free stuff. But that being said, I do have a really nice little YouTube channel going, and I try to get a few videos up there every week. Again, that's also not necessarily nutritional advice. It's just very general, good starting places, things to consider. And then I highly encourage that you either get with a nutrition coach or someone, you know, who aligns with where you want to go, or just continue to educate yourself. And I have some really great resources that I'd love to share with you. So let me know. I like that we're kind of rounding it out here at about that 40-minute mark. I'll say any more questions or any questions at all, going once, going twice. Well, thank you to Greg so much for being here. If you
Thanks,
tuned
everyone.
in with me, or if you're tuning in later on, thank you so much for your time and energy. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next week. Next week, it's going to be me again. And I'm really just going to open up and talk a lot about my experience working through depression and eating disorders, and how I'm currently using this carnivore diet to help treat those symptoms. And I'm going to talk about really the success that I'm having with that, and just letting you all know the power that you have by taking back control of your nutrition. You know, more success stories to come for sure. So I hope to see you here next time. Y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday evening.
Bye.